How are you today? I'm Melissa, and this is Hang In There. I'm really glad you're here. Nothing is being asked of you right now. You can listen at your own pace. This is a space for survivors, for healing, and for anyone who wants to better understand trauma. If it feels okay, take one slow breath with me. Let's begin. Today's episode wasn't supposed to be about this, but as I started writing, I found myself going back there, back to the music. Again. This has been incredibly difficult to write. Not because I'm afraid to share it, but because writing it left me feeling so defeated. I've worked really hard on this trigger over the past 9 months. I've pushed myself further than I ever thought I could. Maybe farther than I should have. And after everything I've done, it still only took a few seconds to bring me to my knees. At first, I thought this episode was about another setback. It turned out to be about something entirely different. If you've ever felt defeated, not because you stopped trying, but because you never stopped trying, and it still hurt. Or if you're still in it, still trying to sort out which thoughts are really yours, and which ones you were only taught to believe. You don't have to be out yet. You don't have to feel safe yet. You don't have to be years into healing for this story to be for you too. Sometimes surviving is all you can do today, and that's enough. Wherever you find yourself today, I hope this helps you discover another voice, the way it did for me. My husband and I decided to take a spontaneous day trip to his sister's cabin, the one I've talked about loving in other episodes. The place we went early on when we were dating. The cabin where I always felt so safe and happy. We were driving, and I was excited. It wasn't what we'd planned that day, but it felt like such a nice surprise. We didn't have any music playing. We were just talking. We were talking about whether I needed a service dog, and I was telling him how hard it is to know what to do, because some days I feel almost normal. I'd been working so hard to build a life that helped me feel more like myself again. Things had finally started to settle down. My days felt calmer and more predictable, and I wasn't experiencing my biggest triggers as often anymore. I just started a new job after leaving one that had become incredibly stressful because of my PTSD. And for the first time in a long time, I really felt like I was gaining some control over everything. I remember telling him how good I'd been feeling and how grateful I was for that. I even found myself wondering if maybe I didn't really need a service dog after all. My therapist had suggested I get one, but they're expensive. And because I'd been feeling so good, I was beginning to question whether it was really necessary. Maybe I could keep managing this on my own. But I also remember telling him how hard it is when something comes completely out of nowhere and blindsides me. Because that's how it always seems to happen. Especially after I've been having good days. That's when it catches me off guard the most. We kept driving to the cabin, excited to see everyone. We were carpooling to a birthday party about 30 minutes from the cabin. I knew parties made me nervous, especially if there was music, so I brought the earplugs I'd recently bought to help dampen the noise. They weren't perfect, but I hoped they'd help. I wanted to be able to stay, to blend in, to enjoy the party like everyone else. They weren't a service dog, but they were the best thing I had. I wanted to go to that party and see everyone, even though it made me nervous. Even though I knew there was a chance I'd hear that music. I knew how important it was for me to keep pushing against the urge to stay in my house all the time. We got to the party, and it was so good to see everyone. About halfway through our time there, the music was turned up. It was a mix of country and rock. I wasn't sure where it would go. So instead of suffering, I quietly excused myself and put in my earplugs. I could feel my anxiety building. I just had this feeling that something was about to happen. I didn't know why, but I kept reminding myself I was safe, that I was with kind people, and that I had my earplugs in. So even if that music came on, maybe I'd have enough time to get away. But deep down, I knew better. I knew what happened to me when I heard it. I stayed back, away from the larger groups and away from the speaker, just in case I needed to leave quickly. I was hoping no one would notice. I'd worked so hard on this music trigger the winter before. You may remember me talking about it in episode 17. I'd gone through hell trying to desensitize myself to it. For a little while, it felt like I was making progress. But then it all backfired. Since then, I haven't been able to make any progress at all. The longer we were there, the more exhausted I became. Since we'd driven with family, we couldn't just leave when I needed to. That part is so hard. I love carpooling until I need to leave. It feels like I'm constantly trying to figure out how to live a normal life. How to go to birthday parties that should be fun without wondering if I'll have to run away because of my triggers. I wanted to enjoy being around kind people who would never want to hurt me. I genuinely wanted to spend time with them. Everyone else was settling in. They were laughing, they were talking. They were simply enjoying being together. I'm doing something completely different. I'm scanning the room, listening, waiting. I wanted so badly to experience those moments the way they did. I just didn't know if I ever would. When there's music on, I feel hunted. Not sometimes, every time, everywhere I go. Like it's only a matter of time before it finds me. It's exhausting. We really weren't there very long, but it felt much longer to me. Eventually, everyone was ready to go, and we said our goodbyes. I still had my earplugs in. I remember walking to the car and thinking about taking them out, but I left them in. I was still too anxious. I was so grateful to get into that car. I'd made it through the party without that music coming on. We'd shown up, we'd spent time with everyone, and now we're heading back. As soon as the doors closed, I felt myself exhale. I'd been in that car with those people so many times before. It felt familiar, safe. For the first time that day, I felt like I could finally relax. And then, just as I was about to take out my earplugs, it came on. The worst one. The one I can't hear for even a few seconds. I recognized it immediately, even through my earplugs. I couldn't hear anything else. It pounded through them. I covered my ears and put my head between my legs, trying to block out the noise. I asked them to please turn it off. They did. But it was too late. How does it always find me? Even in the places where I feel safest. There are places I avoid because I know it might happen. But this? I was in the car with people I love. I felt safe. I never saw it coming. There was nothing I could do. I kept my head down. I had no control over my body. The tears, the shaking, I felt sick. And I couldn't stop it. I tapped my husband, and he asked the driver to pull the car over. I had to get out. The car suddenly felt like it was suffocating me. I couldn't breathe. I fumbled with the door latch because I was shaking. I finally got it open and ran out. I stopped and just stared. I had no idea where we were. My body was convinced I was in danger. My head was pounding. There was nothing else I could do. I had to give my body time to stop panicking and let my mind catch up. Once I could think again, the first thing I felt was anger. Why do I have to live with this? This isn't fair. Why does this always happen to me? Why can't I stop it? Then the embarrassment hit. I pictured them sitting in the car, waiting for me, wondering what had just happened. Wondering if they'd done something wrong. They hadn't. They'd done absolutely nothing wrong. Then, out of nowhere, two little dogs I'd never seen before wandered over to me. I found myself reaching down to pet them. Without even realizing it, I started looking around. Trees, clouds, grass, dogs. What kind of dogs were they? I think they were Chihuahuas. They were so calm. The dread was still there. My body still felt afraid. Like it had just survived one of the worst things imaginable. And then, I felt this pressure to hurry up and be okay. To pretend I was ready to move on with the day. I wanted my husband to stop worrying. I wanted the people in the car to know they hadn't done anything wrong. But I couldn't rush it. My body was going to take the time it needed. It was still convinced I was in danger. Get out of that car. I couldn't stop replaying those few seconds of that song. It's unmistakable, loud, violent. I'd heard less than 10 seconds of it. But my mind kept playing it over and over again. I just wanted it to stop. Why does my body react this way? I don't know. I've never figured out why this music does this to me. I can't access it. I stayed outside for a while, waiting. I just wanted to feel human again. My husband kept reminding me to breathe, but I couldn't seem to get enough air. I just kept telling him how tired I was. Panic is exhausting, even when it only lasts a few minutes. As we stood on the side of the road, I started thinking about all kinds of things. It was strange. That's when I remembered his sister saying she was sorry as I got out of the car. I must have heard her, but it didn't register until then. She felt bad, and that made me feel terrible. Had I ruined her day? They'd been having such a great day until this. They were so happy we decided to come to the cabin that day, and now they had to witness all of this. I felt terrible. I didn't want to get back into that car. I wanted them to go on without us, but I knew that wasn't really an option. I also knew the longer it took me to regroup, the more uncomfortable it would be for everyone. I felt rushed, like I needed to hurry up and be okay. Like I had to put on that fake smile I'd worn for so many years. The reasons were different this time, but the feeling wasn't. I wasn't trying to keep someone else happy anymore. No one was going to hurt me. And yet, I was still trying to make myself smaller. To recover as quickly as I could. To convince everyone I was okay. Even though my body was falling apart. It was a completely different situation. But somehow, my nervous system had reached for the same old survival strategy. That's what made me angry. I never want to put on that fake smile again. My therapists remind me that I don't have to, but it still feels like I do. And that isn't fair. I didn't want them to feel bad for me. I didn't want them thinking any of this was their fault. And I didn't want to talk about it. I knew that if anyone asked me what had happened, I'd lose control all over again. I just wanted to be alone. I just wanted to go home. Home felt predictable, safe. I could let my body calm down there. I wouldn't have to worry about anyone watching me try to put myself back together. But even then, I sat there convinced everyone was thinking the same thing. That I was too much. My thoughts drifted to my husband. I know how much he loves people, music, being around friends. And I struggle so much with those things. I felt ashamed. Like I was holding him back from the life he deserved. All of those thoughts came flooding in the moment my mind was able to think again. On top of the panic, on top of being triggered, on top of everything my body had just been through, that's where my mind went. It didn't ask what I needed. It started telling me what was wrong with me. Then I looked into my husband's eyes, knowing I had to get back in the car. His eyes were wet. He looked so sad. I hated that he was hurting because of me. I hated that there was nothing he could do to fix it. But we'd been here before. This has become a pretty big part of our lives. And he never lets me down. I don't want that pressure to be on him. But I needed him at that moment. We locked eyes. And I simply said, "Okay." I turned around and put on a brave face. Not that fake smile. I wasn't going to pretend I was okay. We walked back to the car together. I opened the door, got in, and buckled my seatbelt. I noticed the music was off. Everyone was very quiet. I knew they cared about me, but I couldn't shake what just happened. I stared out the window. I didn't say anything for quite a while. I looked at the trees, the leaves, the people along the side of the road, the passing cars. I just kept naming what I saw. It was the quietest way I knew to ground myself without anyone noticing. All the while, that song kept finding its way back into my head. That guitar. I couldn't quiet it, no matter how hard I tried. None of the skills I learned in therapy could make it stop. Especially not while I was still sitting in the same car it had just been screaming through. It felt impossible to get away from it. I was trying so hard to look outside and distract myself. But then I'd see trucks. And I'd remember being trapped in them. And it would all start over again, over and over. I couldn't stand it anymore. When I finally felt like I could find my voice, I started talking about anything. Stupid things. And they all went with it. I kept telling myself I was safe. But I didn't feel safe. I was still trapped in that car for another 30 minutes. Until we got back to the cabin. Still wearing my earplugs. I was angry at my earplugs. That music still felt so loud, even with them in. I hoped they would be one more quiet tool. Something that would let me blend in. Feel a little safer, a little more prepared. Instead, my body reacted exactly the way it always does. I felt like I'd run out of options. I felt so alone. We got back to the cabin. I climbed out of the car. I was exhausted. I wasn't thinking clearly. But I was so grateful to be out of that car. I slowly walked the path to the door. This cabin is beautiful. The path is lined with stones, plants, and tall trees. I could hear the birds. I kept reminding myself, this place is safe. I love coming here. We've made so many wonderful memories here. And then I walked through the door. There were cats and a dog there to greet us. I love animals. And I missed my cats at home. I reached down to pet them. Then I noticed the dog. He walked over, sat right in front of me, and waited for something. I didn't know what. I bent down and looked into his black eyes, and I felt something. Like he knew I was hurting. It was only a moment. I didn't know that dog very well, but he just kept looking at me, longer than felt normal. I rubbed his face. I felt his soft black beard. I brushed the hair away from his eyes and talked to him. And somehow, he helped me. Just by being there. Before we go any further, let's slow things down for a moment. If you're still feeling something after hearing that, that's okay. Maybe you recognize something in the story. Maybe you have your own version of that car, your own version of that song, your own side of the road. When I share experiences like this, I'm not just remembering them, I'm reliving them. So I need this pause too. If it feels okay, let's take one together. Notice your shoulders. See if they're carrying more than they need to right now. Feel whatever is supporting you. Your chair, the floor beneath your feet. And if there's a window nearby, let your eyes find something outside. A tree, the sky, a bird, just something simple to rest your eyes on. And take one slow breath with me. Thank you for taking that time with me. Let's keep going. I still think about those dogs, the calm they gave me, even if it was only for a moment. It made me wonder what it would be like to have something like that inside myself. Because when my PTSD takes over like that, I don't need someone to tell me to just calm down. I need a different voice. A voice that can help guide me back. Standing on the side of that road, trying to find my way back to the present, I couldn't guide myself. I wished there was someone or something that could step in when I couldn't. Something to interrupt the panic. Something to help me remember the skills I already knew, but couldn't seem to reach. And then, something to quiet the shame that rushed in as soon as I could think again. To remind me that none of it was my fault. That my body wasn't betraying me. That I wasn't too much. That I wasn't ruining anyone's day. Because as soon as I could think again, my mind filled with shame instead of compassion. Looking back now, I don't think this day stayed with me because of the panic attack. Panic attacks are terrifying, but I've survived them before. This day stayed with me because of what happened after my body began to calm down. Because once the panic started to settle, the voice I'd always listened to took over. The voice that told me I was too much. That I'd ruined everyone's day. That I should be ashamed. And for the first time, I stopped to wonder, what if that voice wasn't really mine? Because those thoughts felt so familiar. I'd heard them before, for years. I think I'd heard them for so long that I started believing they were my own. And if you're still hearing that voice every day, I want you to know this. Just because it's loud doesn't mean it's yours. Lately, I've been working on strengthening a different voice. The part of me that isn't ruled by fear. The part that can see the whole picture when my nervous system can't. The voice that stays calm when I can't. The voice that reminds me my body is trying to protect me, not punish me. The voice that speaks with compassion instead of criticism. I've even given that voice a name. Thea. She's not someone else. She's the part of me I'm finally learning to trust. I'm learning to let her speak before shame does. When shame tells me, you ruined everyone's day, I'm trying to learn to hear Thea instead. She says, you didn't ruin the day. You had a panic attack. The people who love you wanted to help you through it. Looking back now, I don't think Thea is someone I created. I think she's someone I remembered. She's the part of me that trauma couldn't erase. After years of someone else's voice becoming louder than my own, I'm finally learning how to hear mine again. Maybe that's what healing is. Not getting rid of fear. Not pretending the past didn't happen. But slowly learning to hear our own voice again. The voice that remembers who we really are. Even when we don't. I think there's a part of you that trauma couldn't erase. Even if you're not out yet. Even if today doesn't feel safe at all. That part of you is still there. Even if you can't hear it yet. And I'm not sure what you'll call it. You may never give it a name. But I really hope you get to know it. Maybe the next time shame starts speaking, we can pause for just a moment and wonder what that compassionate voice might say instead. I'm not done learning this, and I don't need to be. Maybe we can learn together. Because maybe today, simply noticing that voice is the beginning. As we come to a close, we can slow things down for a moment. If it helps, notice where your body is right now. Feel the surface supporting you. Nothing needs to be resolved or understood today. You can take what felt helpful and leave the rest here. You can come back to this whenever you're ready. You don't have to carry this alone. Neither do I. This is Hang In There. Listen. Heal. Rise.